I think with us it went on. It went in Liverpool, we were a club band, and suddenly we did a theatre. That was like a step. And then we had a 45 record, Love Me Do.
In a stunning development that has shocked music fans worldwide, Richard Starkey, better known as Ringo Starr, the legendary drummer of the Beatles, has been sentenced to life imprisonment without the possibility of parole. The verdict was delivered yesterday at the Old Bailey in London, following an 8-week trial that prosecutors described as unveiling the secret criminal empire behind one of music's most beloved personalities. Starr, 83, known for his affable personality and distinctive drumming style, showed no visible emotion as Justice Margaret Holloway handed down the maximum sentence on charges, including art theft, forgery, money laundering, and leading an organized criminal network. The case, which international authorities had been building for over 6 years, revealed what prosecutors called the most sophisticated art theft operation in modern history. The evidence presented before this court has established beyond reasonable doubt that the defendant exploited his celebrity status and global access to orchestrate a criminal enterprise of extraordinary scope and ambition, Justice Holloway stated during sentencing. Mr. Starkey systematically plundered cultural treasures from museums and private collections across 4 continents, causing incalculable harm to our shared cultural heritage. The investigation began when art crime specialists noticed suspicious patterns in the provenance of certain rare pieces appearing on the private market that had connections to events where Starr had been present. What initially appeared to be coincidental links eventually revealed a coordinated international operation with Starr allegedly directing activities from behind his public persona. Lead prosecutor Eliza Montgomery detailed how Starr had allegedly operated 2 parallel careers: his public life as a beloved musician and peace advocate, and a shadow operation specializing in the theft and illegal sale of priceless artworks and historical artifacts. Mr. Starkey maintained 2 entirely separate worlds, Montgomery explained to the jury during closing arguments. The public face of peace and love provided the perfect cover for a sophisticated criminal network that targeted high-value cultural artifacts around the globe. His concert tours and public appearances were meticulously planned to coincide with opportunities for acquisition. The prosecution presented evidence that Starr had established a network of operatives across major art centers, including London, New York, Tokyo, and Paris, identifying vulnerable collections and executing carefully planned thefts. The stolen items would allegedly be transported using the same logistics network that moved his musical equipment during tours. Paul McCartney, Starr's former bandmate in the Beatles, provided devastating testimony about his growing suspicions over recent years. McCartney described noticing Starr's unusual interest in museum security systems and his extensive knowledge of art authentication processes that seemed incongruous with his public interests. There were conversations that didn't make sense for Ringo, McCartney testified, visibly uncomfortable on the witness stand. Detailed discussions about specific paintings or artifacts that weren't part of his known collections. When I'd ask about it, he'd laugh it off, saying he was just curious about beautiful things. I never imagined anything like this. The investigation took a dramatic turn when authorities executed simultaneous raids on multiple properties owned by Starr, including homes in England, Monaco, and Los Angeles, as well as several storage facilities registered to shell companies. The raids uncovered what investigators described as treasure troves of stolen art, including works reported missing from museums and private collections across Europe, Asia, and the Americas. Among the recovered items were Renaissance masterpieces stolen from Italian museums, ancient Japanese artifacts taken from private collections, and modernist works removed from galleries in major cities. Particularly damning was the discovery of detailed notebooks containing what prosecutors called target assessments of museums, including security evaluations and estimated black market values for specific works. Barbara Bach, Starr's wife of over 40 years, testified that she had noticed unusual activities, but had been deliberately kept in the dark about the true nature of her husband's operations. Her testimony included accounts of mysterious visitors who would arrive at their homes at unusual hours and rooms in their various properties that she was discouraged from entering. There were certain spaces Ringo insisted were his private studios or meditation rooms, Bach testified. He was adamant about his privacy in these areas. I respected that, believing it was part of his creative process. Looking back, there were so many signs I missed or chose not to see. The prosecution presented financial records showing that Starr had accumulated over $175 million in assets that could not be accounted for through his music royalties, concert revenues, or legitimate business ventures. Forensic accountants testified about a complex web of offshore accounts and shell companies used to launder proceeds from the sale of stolen artworks. The financial architecture Mr. Starkey constructed was extraordinarily sophisticated, testified Interpol financial crime specialist Jean-Pierre Dubois. We identified at least 23 shell companies across multiple jurisdictions, all designed to obscure the flow of funds from black market art sales. This system evolved over decades, becoming increasingly complex as technology advanced. Particularly damaging was an encrypted communication recovered from Starr's devices regarding a stolen Modigliani painting, in which Starr allegedly wrote, "Client is concerned about recent authentication questions. Recommend accelerating the aging process on the provenance documents and creating additional transaction history through the Swiss channel. Price point remains firm at 14.5 million euros. Representatives from major museums and galleries testified about their shock at the allegations, noting that Starr's celebrity status and philanthropic reputation had actually granted him unusual access to restricted areas of cultural institutions worldwide. Museum officials described how Starr's apparent interest in art preservation had been viewed as genuine rather than reconnaissance. Mr. Starr was welcomed as an honored guest at our institution multiple times, said the director of a prominent European museum. His questions about our conservation techniques and security protocols seemed to stem from a sincere interest in art preservation. The betrayal of this trust has profound implications for how cultural institutions interact with public figures. The trial featured testimony from numerous art experts and museum curators who described the devastating impact of the thefts on cultural heritage. Many became emotional as they identified stolen works recovered from Starr's properties, describing the historical significance of pieces that had been removed from public access. These aren't just valuable objects, they're irreplaceable threads in our cultural tapestry, testified Dr. Isabella Romano, curator of a major Italian gallery that had lost several significant works. When these pieces are stolen, humanity loses access to its shared heritage. Some of these works had been in public collections for centuries, available for all to appreciate and study. Following the verdict, several jurors agreed to speak anonymously about their deliberations. The evidence was simply overwhelming, said one female juror in her 70s. The storage facilities, the forged provenance documents, the encrypted communications, it all painted a picture of someone leading a complete double life for decades. Another juror added, "What struck me was how the legitimate music career provided the perfect cover. The constant travel, the access to secure shipping methods, the global network of contacts. All of that infrastructure was repurposed to serve this criminal enterprise." The case has sent shockwaves through both the art world and music industry. Major museums have announced comprehensive reviews of their security protocols, particularly regarding VIP access to restricted areas. Several auction houses have announced enhanced verification procedures for high-value works, especially those with gaps in ownership history. For Beatles fans worldwide, the conviction represents an unprecedented tragedy. The remaining Beatles-related businesses have announced a review of all charitable initiatives previously associated with Starr, and music streaming services have reported conflicted reactions from listeners grappling with the cognitive dissonance between the beloved musician and the crimes described in court. The unprecedented life sentence for Ringo Starr stands as a stark reminder of the potential for deception behind even the most seemingly transparent public figures. For a man who spent decades spreading messages of peace and love, the true legacy of his actions has proven to be cultural theft on a global scale, forever tarnishing the reputation of one of music's most recognized icons.